Andrew here, Running on Beer. Welcome to the last video of 2020. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened this year, most of which I think everyone kind of knows about. Some stuff maybe not. But there's been a lot of beer stuff. This is like the year in my beer. It sounded quirky. So a lot of stuff happened beer-wise for me. One is the fucking hop screen, which I've now bequeathed to a friend of mine in exchange. He's supposed to give me a triple. He does quite a few triples, so I'm expecting a good one. I brewed 5 lagers this year. Prior to that, I think I brewed 2, maybe? Something like that. So, yeah, just a bunch. And, I mean, 2 just were fucked. One of them was really overly sweet. It was just something I kind of threw together. I think it was like Pilsner malt and some hops that Exit 12 Brewing gave me, which I need to use more of those. I still have a few, but I just wanted to try this one hop and thought, well, you know, why not throw this into a lager? I used probably like Magnum or Horizon or something to bitter it and use that hop as a feature. I don't even recall what it was, but it fermented really warm, WL3470 yeast. It hit 72 during fermentation and no off flavors. The problem was it was fucking sweet. That hop screen got me on that one. It got me on another one, you know, the brewtubers yeast experiment. It also got me on the first of 2 German Pilsners that I made. So I started with the Reddit's Brew the Book thing, which sounded really fun. It didn't go over as well on Reddit. I mean, it was just kind of a handful of people did it. But I did the first one. It was fucking sweet. So I did the second one, and it actually came out really well. And I drank the shit out of that. Did a Märzen, and then just a few days ago, I did a Doppelbock. So 5 lagers, which is just wild for me, considering I think I did 2 or 3 prior. Did 2 British beers. Usually 1 or 2 ends up in a year. But a brown ale, a British brown ale, it came out really well. It didn't keep in bottles as well. I had one recently. It was kind of stale-ish a little bit. I mean, not like oxidized stale, but like kind of muted, old. And then did a barley wine, which I still have one of those occasionally. That's obviously sort of a keeping beer. Nice 9% by ABV beer. 4 IPAs this year, which doesn't shock me at all. Actually, there's one part that shocks me. I would have expected, if I did this video a year ago, that I did more IPAs than lagers. Did the brewtubers yeast experiment. It was a little on the sweet side. Did a Kvike white IPA, which later got dumped. Somehow it got oxidized. I'm thinking it was in the transfer, and I think one thing I'll probably always do from here on out is, any time I'm brewing beer now, I use a water bath fermentation method. You know, I put my plastic carboy into a water bath, and that one I fermented warm because, you know, Kvike can hit like 90 or something. But I think I transferred it warm also. And I think the next time I do that, I'm going to like ice the fucker down to chill it down as much as possible before transferring it. That way I can hopefully prevent some oxidization. And I think that generally tends to work better. It's also less load on my keezer. You know, if you're putting an 80-degree beer into a keezer, that's a lot more than sticking a, 50-degree beer into a keezer. It also might drop out some of the precipitate, some of the hop matter, and stuff like that. I did a fresh hop white IPA. It was wonderful. Just an absolute wonderful beer. That's another one that I drank the shit out of. I gave a few to a friend, and he like wanted to buy more off of me, which is really cool. And then I did a New England style IPA. That's one I did with hops I had on hand, which for the most part was well. But there's one, I think it's the Hallertauer Blanc, that really, its flavor just doesn't go well with a New England style of IPA. So I'm not going to use that hop, at least not for that anymore. Then did 2 other beers. I did a Hefeweizen. I still sip on that occasionally. It came out really well. It's just not a style I often grab. I'll tell you what though, it's great post-run beer. Of course I'd know that. And did a gingerbread porter, which also came out really well. I think it could really use to be supercharged a little bit in the flavor, but I gave some to my parents and they loved it. Now, they're not big porter fans at all, so it's great to hear that. I've also been doing some BJCP training, which I've touched on here and there, and I put in reverse osmosis water. One thing about that second German Pilsner is it wasn't as crisp as I would have liked. So the next time I do one of those, I'm definitely going to try a different water structure and hopefully get it a little bit more crisp. And then there's a few other things that happened. Everybody knows that there's this fucking virus out there, which means I think we canceled like 9 Cincinnati Malt Infusers meetings. We had 9 so far BJCP classes. Every one of them was virtual, which it's still great to get together and talk about them. But sometimes it's better to get together in person because we can share bottles and stuff like that. One guy did figure out a way around it. He packaged up some of these little bottles. I mean, it's like 2 ounces, and it really got us around having to get a bunch of large format expensive sours. Some of them were really good, and I wouldn't have been opposed to having a larger format of it. But there was a couple that one I just really ripped on. I think I gave it like a 25 or something overall because I just was not happy with the flavor at all. It just didn't taste good. And then, this is the Running on Beer channel, so there's been other things that have been canceled. I deferred the Flying Pig Marathon till whenever they decide to hold it in person again. I'm not sure if that's going to be 2021. We'll see. It might be 2022. Might be fall of 2021. Usually it's a spring race, but whatever. 2 races went virtual, and they're both beer series races, which one of them is really probably my favorite race of the year because it's like 9 miles in the morning to Cincinnati, Oktoberfest weekend, have a few afterwards, great band that they bring out for the after party. So having that canceled was just a bummer. 4 other races got canceled, and then there's one that went virtual. If it was in person, I probably would have signed up for it. So next year, what's coming? One of them is, so I want to say I'll do something about the noise in my brewing area. And I did a video a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, something like that, where I was in it, and you could hear when I was like trying to apply the noise reduction to cut out the air handler in the background. I do run the fan in my house all 24/7, and I think that's great for an air quality thing, but it sucks with the noise. So my phone just ran out of space, so I had to pause, and while I was at it, I took off the overshirt. Anyway, back to this. The Leich beer, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is one, it's brewed by Listerman's Adequately Sober group of Bloatarians. Bloatarians are the other homebrew club, one of the other homebrew clubs, but probably the biggest in Cincinnati. And they're great people. We've actually worked together with them. We both provide judges for each other's competitions. With this whole fucking COVID thing, we've been helping out each other in terms of passing out Zoom links to each other and inviting both groups to various meetings, online meetings, which wouldn't be any different. No Bloatarian's going to tell a malt infuser member that they can't come to the meetings, and likewise we won't do the same. And in some cases, we're also friends outside of brewing. I mean, the president of the Bloatarians is an ultra runner, so occasionally he and I talk running, and I'm sure there's 1 or 2 others I've talked about, or talked with. So anyway, this is a Leich beer. Nice, clear. Yeah, I know it's a commercial beer, but it's a wonderful beer, and you can't easily see on the can. I'm not even going to try and show it to you because the camera won't pick it up. But this thing is 3.2% ABV. You're not going to get drunk off this. You're just not. So, and that's one thing I like about it because it's 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm making a video, and then I'm probably going to go upstairs, order pizza, an hour after I edit the video, and my wife wants wine. So I'm not going to go guzzle a bunch of beer, and I'm not letting her drink a whole bottle of wine. She'll pass out. So anyway, nice floral hoppy light. I'm probably going to brew my own. I think I will. It's a nice light style, and it's one that you can drink all day, seriously. I'm definitely going to do another German Pilsner too. I mentioned it a few minutes ago that's something I want to do. And of course a Marzen. I love Oktoberfest beers, so I'm not going to balk at the chance to do another. I also want to do a few Belgians. I've done a Saison, but I used the French Saison yeast. I'd love to actually try like that Belgian yeast and an actual Belgian, more Belgian beer, like a quad. maybe a triple, probably a quad. Now, of course, I'm saying all this. The next beer I'm making is a West Coast IPA. I've already got the ingredients, so that's what's going to happen. So, anyway, that's it. I've actually got a little bit of a backlog of videos. I've got some footage of the Doppelbock Brew Day. I want to talk about the recipe on that. And then I also want to talk about efficiency. I've been doing a lot of efficiency analysis, and there's some things I'm confused about. I'm going to reach out to a couple other people. But in general, that's something that I've never really gotten into other than calculating it. And I'm starting to put a lot more attention to it. Particularly because with the Doppelbock, I actually hit my temperatures. Well, a little bit. I was a little over, but I started down to reasonable 156, 7 degrees-ish for the mash. And that's a lot different from the prior beer that had totally missed my mash temperature. I think I was at 139, which is really too low. So I changed up a way I did it. So there's some things to talk about with that. Anyway, Happy New Year, y'all. Cheers.